Mike Pence, mic'd up, ready to go. Sir, welcome to the program. Mr. Vice President, it's very good to see you today, sir.
Thank you, Stuart. Good to be with you.
Now, there is the most cases of any country in the world. That's the United States. We've done polls about how people are feeling, and there's clearly high anxiety about the country and the virus. And yet the administration, your task force, the president, talking about opening up the economy in certain areas. Is that running counter high anxiety and yet opening up?
Well, what we're seeing across the country is that tens of millions of Americans are literally putting into practice the president's coronavirus guidelines, 15 days to slow the spread. And they're also listening very carefully, Stuart, to state and local authorities in areas where the coronavirus outbreak has been more significant. And we're particularly focused, of course, in the Seattle area and California. But now with more than half of the coronavirus cases in America being in the greater New York City area, we're flowing resources, we're flowing supplies, we're giving guidance and fully supporting the efforts of Governor Murphy in New Jersey, Governor Cuomo in New York. And I must tell you that, that from my vantage point, I think the American people can be proud of the response of our local healthcare workers who have leaned into this effort, particularly in the areas where there's significant outbreak. I think they can be proud of every governor across the country who's provided strong leadership. But I also know how grateful people are that from very early on, all the way back in January, President Trump has taken decisive action to put the health of America first. There's no question, Stuart, that by suspending all travel from China on January 31st, by suspending travel from Europe very recently, screening all passengers to the United States from Italy and South Korea, President Trump bought our nation invaluable time to stand up our response. And now over the last month, we've had a whole of government effort, full partnership with our states and with the cooperation of the American people. We believe that even as this outbreak continues, that we're significantly impacting it and saving lives.
The administration was the first to cut off travelers coming here from China. You did that way back in January. But the criticism is that you were then slow to launch a serious effort to combat the virus. Testing, for example, didn't go well. What's your response to the criticism that you were delayed in a serious, all-hands-on-deck approach?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was in the Oval Office in January when much of Washington was focused elsewhere, and I saw this president completely focused on the threat of the coronavirus as it was beginning to emanate from China. And, you know, the president spoke to President Xi last night and spoke to all the G20 leaders yesterday morning in a conference call, but he still put the health of America first. He made that decision. And he stood up the White House Coronavirus Task Force at just exactly the same time. And on the issue of testing, I couldn't be more proud that as of yesterday, more than 550,000 tests had been administered across the country. We're literally testing tens of thousands of Americans every day. And the reason we're able to do that is because many, many weeks ago, the president recognized that the old system of testing, where you send a test into your state lab or to the CDC and run a manual system to determine what the infectious disease is, was just not big enough to deal with an outbreak like we're dealing with coronavirus. He brought in all of the major commercial labs. They formed a consortium. And now you have companies like LabCorp and Quest working with equipment by great companies like Roche. And literally every single day, tens of thousands of Americans are being tested. As the president observed in our first week alone, the United States, with that incredible ingenuity and that partnership that the president forged with commercial labs, We actually did more coronavirus tests in 8 days than South Korea had been able to do in 8 weeks. And we're really just getting started, because now we can expand testing across the country, and very soon we'll have what's called point of care testing available, that's going to be when you can go to your doctor, Stuart, and your doctor will have a coronavirus test that can actually be performed in less than 15 minutes. That's all happening. It's all happening because of the resources and the free enterprise ingenuity that President Trump brought to the table.
We're told that the virus and the number of cases should peak around April, mid-April. Will you hold with that forecast?
Well, my only answer anytime people ask me about timing is 2 things. Number one, President Trump made it clear that we want to open up the country, but we're going to do it responsibly. And number 2, we're going to do it based upon the data. You know, early on in this process, Stuart, it's becoming more widely known, there was a lot of projections and a lot of modeling about 40, 50, 60% of people being infected around the country and around the world. I can tell you that our health experts, like Dr. Deborah Birx and others, were very skeptical of that modeling from early on, and they've said to us consistently, we're going to follow the data. And when the president sent that letter to every governor in America yesterday, he said, look, we're going to be issuing new guidance in the days ahead, and we're going to literally be examining the data on a county-by-county basis. There's going to be areas of the country where we have to support our governors, and the mitigation efforts have to stay very strong, and in some cases even become stronger. But for much of the country where the outbreak is very limited, the president is anxious to give guidance based on the data to our governors so that they can decide whether it be reopening businesses or reopening schools, about the best way to open our country up again. But whenever that timetable is, and the president expressed an aspirational goal of Easter, Stuart, the best thing every American can do to hasten the day is to put into practice the president's 15 days to slow the spread. Washing your hands, personal hygiene. If you're sick, stay home. If you can work from home, don't eat in restaurants. Use the drive-through. Avoid gatherings of more than 10. Avoid non-essential travel. Tens of millions of Americans have been doing this. We know it's had a good effect. We'll see it in the data in the weeks ahead. But everyone that wants to see America back to work knows exactly what they can do is these 15 days to slow the spread, and also listen carefully to what your state and local authorities are saying, especially in areas where the outbreak's been significant.
This may be anecdotal, but there is clearly a problem with hard data, hard numbers. For example, we have someone who took the test 8 days ago and only just got the result, and it was a positive result, a positive test. So we don't really have a handle on firm numbers as who's got it and who's carrying it. We don't know that at this time, do we?
Well, we're rapidly accelerating testing. As I said, about a week ago Monday, we had done roughly 50,000 tests from the start of the year using the old system. And as of yesterday morning, we'd done another 500,000 tests where people all had the results. But to your point, Stuart, President Trump has made it clear we're going to continue to stand on the accelerator, rapidly expanding testing across the country. And we also issued guidance to all of our commercial labs today to prioritize inpatient testing. We want people that are hospitalized and are concerned that they have the coronavirus to be moved to the front of the line to get their test processed. And we're grateful that our commercial labs around the country are cooperating with making that priority happen.
Well, Mr. Vice President, I think at most we're 2 weeks into a stay-at-home order. At most, it's probably less than that. Most people thus far are respecting the social distancing rules. But how do you think Americans are going to react if we're locked into our homes, locked down for a month or 6 weeks, or heaven forbid, 2 months? How do you think we'll react?
Well, I think the American people always rise to the challenge, and that's what I'm seeing all over the country today. In fact, it's not just American families that recognize that while the risk of serious illness to the average American, particularly younger Americans, is very low, the risk to seniors with serious underlying health conditions or anyone with an immunodeficiency is very significant. And people are putting the president's guidelines into practice because they know none of us would ever want to inadvertently expose a loved one, a family member, a neighbor, or a coworker to the coronavirus who would be vulnerable to a serious outcome. But I also have to tell you here on Fox Business, Stuart, that the way American business is stepping up is truly inspiring. We hope the Congress today will pass the CARE Act. It'll speed more than $3,400 to a family of four. It'll provide payroll support for small businesses, lending facilities for our major industries, support for our hospitals and our states. But I have to tell you, and I talked about this yesterday at the briefing, to see companies like Walmart hiring 150,000 people, announcing those hirings, Amazon the same, Pizza Hut hiring 30,000 people, and the generosity that businesses are showing, stepping forward, donating industrial masks, supplies that they have to their local hospital. It's truly been inspiring. I know the president's going to look at the data. We're going to bring him recommendations over the course of this weekend as we come to the end at midnight Monday of the 15 days to slow the spread. We'll have additional guidance for our states and the American people going forward. But we have every confidence that the American people will continue to rise to the challenge. We'll slow the spread as every American cooperates and supports the president's leadership and supports the leadership at their state level. We'll protect our most vulnerable, and we'll heal our land.
Sir, were you shocked to hear that Prime Minister Boris Johnson had tested positive right after Prince Charles had tested positive?
I just heard that this morning and saw the message that he posted. As you know, President Trump has a strong relationship with Prime Minister Boris Johnson. We consider him not just a great ally, but a great friend, and we wish him well. To see his resolve, he said he'd had some mild symptoms, but he was going to continue to lead his country. We're confident of that, and we'll do the same here, working closely with our governors, with our courageous health officials. We'll get through this with the cooperation and the prayers of the American people. This too shall pass, and we'll deal with the coronavirus the way the American people always do.
Mr. Vice President Mike Pence, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Varney & Company. Much obliged to you, sir. Appreciate it.